morning and welcome to Rising. We've got a great show for you today to start out the week. Obviously, some very big news happening on the global scale in Syria that we're going to talk about a little bit later. Good to have you back with us, Niall. Nice
Glad
to see
to
you.
be back with you, Robby. Always a pleasure. And yes, absolutely, a lot of stuff on the domestic agenda, a lot of stuff on the global agenda. So
Yes.
we will get to it all. But first of all, Robby, what is on your radar?
Well, on a different subject, the fallout from President Joe Biden's fateful pardon of his son, Hunter, continues. As reported last week by Politico, the unprecedented pardoning of the president's son is just the tip of the iceberg. Team Biden is reportedly weighing preemptive pardons for a whole host of characters. Liz Cheney, Adam Schiff, and get this, Dr. Fauci, maybe? So much for the idea that Donald Trump represents some novel and unparalleled threat to democracy or the rule of law. If Biden follows through on this and proactively pardons Fauci before the incoming Republican administration can properly vet whether the good doctor's advocacy for public funding of gain-of-function research in China was connected to the initial outbreak of COVID-19, that would constitute the most psychotic use of presidential powers in history. But that's how Biden is choosing to spend his final days and weeks in office, focused entirely on protecting his family and his inner circle, even as the world is in great turmoil. Now, over the weekend, Americans learned that the reign of Bashar al-Assad in Syria had come to an end. What does this mean for American defense priorities? Al-Assad is not an ally of ours. On the contrary, he's an ally of Russia and Iran. That said, our experience in this part of the world shows us that when a secular dictator is ousted, what follows is an emboldening of Islamic extremism, which is often worse for the American perspective. Is Biden managing this situation? Does he have his finger on the pulse? Is he awake and alert? No one feels comfortable asking these questions, but we are forced to wonder. Biden's been very low-key lately, and when he does make an appearance in public, doesn't exactly inspire confidence. Here he was at the Christmas tree lighting a few days ago. That's that image from there. Biden also skipped the reopening of Notre Dame Cathedral in France, sending Jill Biden in his stead. Now look, I believe in showing respect to our elders, but it's absurd that we still have to put up with this farce that the man Joe Biden is still capable of doing the job, the toughest job there is. Has any president in modern history squandered as much goodwill as he has? CNN's Scott Jennings had it exactly right the other day as he blasted Biden for exiting on these terms.
It was a total disgrace. He's leaving office in disgrace because of this pardon. And it's not just the pardon, it's the lying. Lied to the American people. According to NBC News, he and his top aides hatched a plan to lie to the American people. And then this week, he didn't even have the guts to go out to the White House podium and take questions about it. He sent Karine Jean-Pierre out there, who was also a part of the lying, and then she continued to gaslight the American people and the media. The American people ought to be pissed, but the media, the people who cover this White House, ought to be absolutely livid at the gaslighting and then the continued gaslighting and the hostility towards the idea of transparency. This is a monumental disgrace. You think 38, 39% job approval is low? Wait until we test him as he leaves office. He's going out of office as one of the least liked and most divisive presidents we've ever had.
Now keep in mind that Joe Biden could have absolutely pardoned other nonviolent drug offenders alongside his son. He still could issue a pardon for Edward Snowden, Julian Assange, Ross Ulbricht. He could commute the sentences of those on death row, as many progressives and libertarians would like him to. He still could. I hope he does. But that's not what we're hearing Biden allies talking about. What we're hearing is presidential pardons for top Democratic operatives, key allies of the president, who haven't even been charged with, let alone convicted of, crimes. Just to take the option to investigate off the table. So much for all those norms we've heard so much about. So look, I hope we get more pardons of worthy people. I could drop a list of people rotting away in prison who I don't want to be there. And I wouldn't have wanted Hunter Biden to be rotting away there either for the gun, filling out the form wrong, drug addiction, etc. We didn't have you on last week, so we're actually getting, I don't know what you think, your first reaction a week later to the Hunter Biden pardon news.
I thought it was terrible, but anyway, go ahead. Yeah.
The decision, and now it could be preemptive pardons for allies. And look, if there's a witch hunts against Biden folks, that's what Kash Patel ends up doing, I will be condemning it strongly. But with Fauci particularly, there are questions about culpability, not for lockdowns or mask mandates, but the other stuff. And I think it would be really smashing these so-called norms to start doing preemptive pardoning.
When you say the other stuff, what do you mean by the other stuff?
The funding, the approval of
The
funding gain-of-function
stuff.
research in the NIH. We now, again, I don't know that Fauci is personally responsible, but he is a major advocate for doing that research. He signed, even during the Obama years when there was a pause on gain-of-function research, but there were some exceptions carved into the law. He signed off on those exceptions. We know there were proposals made to NIH to do similar research to this. I think it's still a subject to be looked into.
Mm-hmm. So I don't like pardon power at all. I think it's kind of peculiar that the United States, which takes rightful pride in the idea that no one is above the law, then gives to the president the capacity to raise certain people above the law at his or her whim. I thought the Hunter Biden pardon was terrible. I just thought it completely undercut the moral argument that Biden has sought to make about the importance of not meddling with the judicial
system. That he
and
willingly
so
made
forth.
when he pledged not to
Right.
do it repeatedly
Right.
and paid put all Democrats in the position of congratulating him for saying he wouldn't do it.
Right, and was pretty unequivocal, really, in saying that it absolutely wouldn't happen, and you know his spokespeople were equally so. I don't blame the spokespeople. Actually, I think they're told what the line is,
Yes.
and then the line changes. Now, in relation to, I mean, preemptive pardoning, I think as a principle is even worse in a way. You're pardoning people of anything that they may have done. The thing I suppose that does, I don't know how much of an exception this makes to it all, but the fact that Trump has said so often about going after people in relation to Liz Cheney, talking about televised military tribunals, talking about Kamala Harris should be impeached and prosecuted for, it wasn't really very clear to me for what. That kind of propensity of his to target political critics, I think, would be the pretext to argue for the preemptive pardons.
Yeah. I don't like that rhetoric from Trump either. I think we should be forward-looking. We should not be score-settling. Trump won. He's getting his second term. He's going to get most of the people he wants in key positions to implement the policies he wants to have. He has something of a mandate, at least. He made no secret about what he was running on, that he wants to fix immigration, that he wants to cut back some administrative agencies, that he wants to fix the economy, and he said tariffs, and these are my various proposals to do it. I disagree with some of his policies, I agree with others, but he made no secret about what he's going to do.
Right.
So he has a mandate to do that. He should not, I think it would behoove him not to be backward-looking, not to settle scores, not to, use he thinks he was wrongly persecuted by the deep state, the Justice Department, et cetera. Okay, and actually Biden seems to agree that there's some politicization of these departments. So,
which again is why I think
why it's a bad idea, but
terrible. But anyway,
here we are. So make I would suggest that they implement the policies that they think need to be implemented to make the departments less politicized or less far-reaching or operating outside the law. If that's what they think they're doing. Not start punishing Liz Cheney for heresy against the Republican Party. You can criticize her all you want, but there's nothing to go after her for that I know of.
No, exactly. Well, I mean, and I think that it is his impulse to go after people like that which creates the pretext for preemptive pardons. Now, I've just said I don't like the pardon system generally, but I think it is the perception, at least certainly among left of centre people, that there is a requirement to protect people against vindictive prosecution, I think is the rationale for it.
I totally hear you on the presidential pardon power. It is so vast and not in keeping with the spirit of a lot of our traditions. I've heard ideas to make it, well, why shouldn't it be subjected to Senate overview or something like the nominations? My only problem with that is people I do want to get pardons, like Ross Ulbricht, like
right.
Edward Snowden, like Julian Assange.
Wouldn't get them.
It would by making it more politically, involving more political people, you just would kill the likelihood that any of those things would ever happen, and I think that would be a shame.
Yeah, fair enough.
All right, we've got lots more to get into on the show today. As promised, we will be talking about what is happening in Syria, the end of Bashar al-Assad's reign, and what that means for American security and for terrorism. More Rising coming up after this.